Okay, this video is Autoimmune Disease Part 4 from the book Dr. John Mcdougall, The Doctor Who Fought for You by me, Pete Rogers. Okay, so the Mcdougall diet is able to cure the majority of patients with autoimmune disease. Just go to his website, drmcdougall.com, and you'll see tons and tons of testimonials of all these patients cured of autoimmune disease. And the main thing you want to cure is you want to prevent leaky gut. The patient will know within 4 months if the Dr. Mcdougall diet will cure them. And by cure, I mean stop the disease from progressing. It's not going to restore damaged joints back to normal. However, in some patients, the Mcdougall diet is not able to stop the progression of autoimmune diseases. And these patients, an elimination diet can be helpful. Starches are allowed with the elimination diet, including brown or white rice, puffed rice, sweet potatoes, tapioca, rice flour, taro or poi, winter squash. And for more information, see the May 2014 newsletter at drmcdougall.com. Fruits that are allowed with the elimination diet include apricots, bananas, cherries, berries, papaya, peaches, plums, jackfruit, and breadfruit. Veggies that are allowed on the elimination diet include non-starchy green and yellow vegetables, all cooked, asparagus, artichoke, beets, beet greens, celery, chard, kale, lettuce, string beans, spinach, summer squash. Cooking a food helps to denature the proteins and make it less likely to elicit an autoimmune response. Cooking also makes a food more sweet, tastes better, because it frees up the simple sugars. And this is what also happens when you make a juice or a smoothie. The simple sugar component is partially freed up, more accessible to your taste. Okay, the ultimate elimination diet is fasting. Let me scoot this over. The True North Health Center is well known for helping people with water fasting. Fasting can work very well, but fasting is only a temporary cure. Eventually, a person must eat. Okay, now this is from the videos Inflammatory Arthritis, How to Cure Autoimmune Disease, and My Body is Attacking Itself, How to Cure Autoimmune Disease by Dr. Mcdougall. So if you go to his YouTube channel, you'll see all that stuff. All right, so now here's a diagram. I just added some of my own drawings into this book just to help the readers understand what's going on. So basically, here's a normal gut. I'll cover up myself. I used to cover up the abnormal gut. Okay, so with the normal gut, basically the fiber that you eat in your diet is taken up by these good bacteria. I have them smiling and in kind of green to show that these are the good bacteria. They convert the fiber into short-chain fatty acids, SCFA. The most important one is 4-carbon butyrate. So the 4-carbon butyrate is used by the intestinal lining cells, the enterocytes, to make the TJs. These are tight junctions. They're connections between the individual lining cells of the gut. It's only a single layer thick. The name of cells that line a tract or a luminal tract are called epithelial cells. So these are also called the gut epithelial cells. The gut is called the enteric tract, so these are called the enterocytes. Okay. Now again, there's like a symbiotic relationship, meaning mutually beneficial relationship between good gut bacteria and the gut lining. And we feed them fiber, and they use the fiber to make butyrate, which helps us to maintain tight junctions so we don't have leaky guts. So you really only need, I know a lot of people hype all this microbiome stuff and they confuse you, all the individual bacteria. You don't need to know any of that. Just know there's 2 types of gut bacteria. There's good bacteria, like these guys right here, and there's bad bacteria. Good bacteria have sort of co-evolved with us, so to speak, for who knows how many thousands of years. And they help keep us alive. They do good things for us, like make the butyrate to make the tight junctions, okay? This is what I also meant by, you get fats just from eating plant foods, the carbohydrates, the fiber. The 2-carbon fatty acid acetate goes right to the liver through the portal vein for making other fats. The 3-carbon propionate goes right to the liver, and that's for making the, occasional odd number of carbon fats. And this is why I also said you can survive quite well eating less than 1% of your calories for fat. This is also why I said all that good fat stuff is a bunch of nonsense, because you need hardly any fat. Just minimal amounts of, the precursor omega-6 and precursor omega-3, minimal amounts that you get easily from plant foods. That's why you don't need all these high-fat plant foods. And the reason I'm saying that, again, is because that's why I call fiber the good fat, because you get what you need through the acetates and the propionates. So you don't need to drive yourself crazy with all the other stuff and make yourself fat and sick. All right, well, anyways, that's how the normal gut lining maintains itself. All right, so then, what's the problem? Why do people get autoimmune disease? Because if they lack dietary fiber, or they have something else that's damaging the gut, like antibiotics damaging the good bacteria, oils damaging the gut lining, excessive dietary fat, including sat fat, damaging the gut lining, medications like NSAIDs, aspirin that damage the gut lining, high fructose corn syrups damaging to the gut lining, non-organic corn, BT corn damaging to the gut lining, a lot of emulsifiers in processed food. They're sort of like detergent-like to hold the aqueous, water-like, and fat component of the processed food together, but they're toxic to our gut lining. And there's a whole bunch of other things, carrageenan, alcohol, F- in municipal tap water, chlorine in municipal tap water, BPA, a lot of things, corticosteroid medications, titanium dioxide, all these things. And leaky gum, if you have bad teeth, that can let bacterial endotoxins into your blood. So if you don't have the fiber or you have one of these things breaking down your gut lining, you lack the tight junctions between the enterocytes. LPS, which is lipopolysaccharide, that's the gram-negative bacteria endotoxin, can also happen with LTA, lipoteichoic acid, the gram-positive bacteria endotoxin. It'll get across this gut lining. These purple things are the bad bacteria too. They actually eat the mucus lining that protects our gut wall as well. Anyways, this bad stuff gets across and gets into our blood. If it just goes into the gut wall itself, you get inflammation of the gut wall. That's like irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis. But if it gets into the blood, it'll start causing an inflammatory response and release of all these inflammatory cytokines. Plus, usually when you got leaky gut, you got leaky blood-brain barrier, and this LPS and LTA can go to the brain. They can cause neuroinflammation through activation of your microglia cells. I've given separate lectures on that. But in terms of autoimmune disease, the big thing is that the tight junctions are absent such that the protein, big chunks of protein, normally you can only absorb a single amino acid or two of them together or three of them together, like a tripeptide. That's it, nothing bigger than that. However, when you got leaky gut, big chunks of animal protein can get across this gut wall. The immune system will make antibodies to them. They will react with those protein chunks. And the problem is, because they come from an animal, their amino acid sequences are similar to our own. And this antibody might cross-react with proteins inside our own body, like in our thyroid, okay? So, like, let's say a hot dog is basically an animal thrown into a blender, okay? And then when you eat that hot dog, little pieces of thyroid tissue can get across here. You can form antibodies to it, and they can cross-react with your own thyroid, like for Hashimoto's thyroiditis, all right? So what you want to do is maintain this gut lining, and you do that by eating fiber and avoiding all this bad stuff right here that I listed that'll break down the gut wall. And that's how you prevent autoimmune disease. That's the main thing. And if that doesn't work, then you can go on an elimination diet. You might be sensitive to a few other things like gluten, for example, rye, barley, wheat, for example. But you can try the more extensive elimination diet. You can also try avoiding those chemicals that I mentioned, with Doris Wrap. You can also avoid things that I've talked about before, like F- will distort the structure of proteins and can cause damage associated molecular patterns. You can get that with, GP, glyphosate, can damage. I've shown you how that can damage collagen, damage proteins. If you have an excessive amount of oxidative stress, that can damage your bodily proteins and lead to autoimmune disease. So, where do you get your antioxidants? From eating plants, okay? You don't get them from eating animals because the animals already used them up. So anyways, that's a big helpful approach to autoimmune disease, how you got a good chance to cure yourself. If none of that stuff works, then you can try all that omega-3 stuff because it's immune suppressant. And if it still doesn't work after you tried all that stuff, then you can try the medicines. But I would try to fix the problem first before going on all those pills, potentially for life. Okay. There's a lot of people. The testimonials Mcdougall has. Also, the guy, Jeff Nelson, real smart guy over at Veg Stores, he said that the Mcdougall diet cured his daughters of acne, and it cured his wife of autoimmune disease called relapsing polychondritis. When I was a young guy in my 20s, my girlfriend, her mother died of lupus, and I felt terrible because they had asked me in advance, a couple years in advance, what do I recommend? I was just a medical student. I didn't know any better. I said, go to the best possible rheumatologist. But now I didn't even realize, it didn't even cross my mind that I could easily just read on my own and know more than the best rheumatologist, okay? Because they're all drug-based. And they get brainwashed into that because the big-name medical centers only talk about drugs. It's pharmacology-based medicine, really. It's not really the gold standard at all. It's just drug-based medicine. So I felt bad, If I had known, I might have been able to help her. I wish I had discovered Mcdougall's information at a younger age. These things are for real. People get sick and they die unnecessarily all the time, every day, all day long. And tons of this is preventable. So there was a Dr. Mcdougall newsletter, January 2014, The Smoke and Mirrors Behind Wheat Belly and Grain Brain. Because other than if you're sensitive to these things, you know, their grains are usually a good food. Low-carb diets contribute to higher risk of disease and death. 3 studies listed. Animal foods cause inflammation, not plant foods. 6 studies listed. Why do animal foods cause inflammation? Well, first of all, they're high fat and cholesterol, blood sludge, so they cause tissue hypoxia, neutrophil release of myeloperoxidase, MPO, collapse the endothelial glycocalyx. They set up the whole mechanism of inflammation whereby white blood cells can get into the subendothelial space, get into the tissues. TMAO, trimethylamine oxide. Okay, autoimmune disease, of course, postprandial endotoxemia with amyloidogenic clotting, again causing more tissue ischemia, as well as the LPS, LTA crossing the blood-brain barrier to cause neuroinflammation of the brain. I mean, you don't want that. It's obviously bad and stupid. Okay, Dr. Mcdougal's letter, March 2013. Gluten-free diets are harmful for the general population except for 1% of people who have a real gluten problem. Plus, nowadays they manipulate a lot of these wheats and other things so that do you even know what you're eating. That's one reason why you want to eat old-fashioned stuff, organic. That's not processed. It's not a G, you know what, M, you know what, O. The current gluten-free craze is largely unhealthy for people who don't need it. Wheat can be associated with celiac disease, wheat allergies, wheat sensitivity. Gluten-free can be a disguise for low-carb eating. A lot of those gluten-free foods are junk foods. I only eat things that have one ingredient. Otherwise, who knows what they added to the second ingredient. They don't have to tell you. They could add MSG. Who knows what else? MFG. Gluten-free diets cause weight gain. Dr. Mcdougall newsletter 2010. Glucosamine and chondroitin do not help with arthritis. Newsletter April 2004. How to prevent and treat degenerative osteoarthritis. I think actually one of his best essays was Diet is the only treatment for arthritis. That was a good one. Okay, I think that's it for my autoimmune disease chapter. Hope that was helpful.